on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have an extra special video. Many of you may wonder, man, Ryan doesn't seem to mod his car very often. He must not like power. I really just wanted to progress with the car with my driving as opposed to throwing every bolt on the car possible right away. Fortunately, but unfortunately, quarantine has given us a lot of time and we've assembled a lot of parts. A lot of really special parts have come up that I just wouldn't want to let go by. And one of those special parts today is the headers, which I'm going to introduce you to in a second. They're a very, very special piece. I got them Cerakoted. I think you're really going to love them as soon as you see them. I'm one of very few people to have these headers for the car. So it's very, very cool to be a part of this group of people. But first, if you guys remember, a long time ago we installed OFT on the car and we've been on stage 1 for a long time. I really have no complaints. The tune has been really reliable. Haven't had any weird things happen with the car yet. But what I'm doing now is updating the tablet, since pretty soon here we're going to be heading off to Logan's. And man, this cannot focus on a computer screen for shit. But anyways, we're going to be heading to the shop in just a minute here to install the headers. And I just need to have this OFT ready to go, have the tune ready to go for stage 2. So now let's check out the headers. And check out these babies that we got here. So these are Ace headers. They are essentially made to order headers. They're very custom. They do not just mass produce these. They are 4 2-to-1 equal length headers. That's why I went with these. That is the max potential power that you can get out of a header, is a design like this, just point blank period. And in my personal opinion, going for an equal length just for the sound is just a little bit gay. But regardless, this is my decision. I really love this design. I saw this at first on BTR Justin's channel, which I will link in the bio. Then one of my buddies ended up having one for sale, and he ended up being, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on camera, but you see it's 86- this is only number 80 of production. So it's pretty cool. It's really dope that it's like a limited piece. I'm really stoked on that. I had to wait a really long time because the gaskets that came off were just like unusable. There was no way. So I had to order these from Ace, and they happen to be in Taiwan, the motherland. So I'll kind of show you how this all comes together just generally, but obviously that would be on the engine there. You see it's 2 pipes over there, 2 pipes here. That 4 comes into 2 pipes here. Then generally speaking, on most setups, that's the end of the header, quote unquote. But this header continues because the overpipe is a part of the header. And it would continue something like this. So then 2 to 1. So it's very interesting. It's a very awesome design. It fits extremely tight in the car. So there's going to be some special things that we need to do with this install that you would normally not need to do with other headers, I would imagine, because most of the time you don't even need to touch the overpipe, or do you? I don't know. Either way, we're about to find out. So let's get to the garage and let's enjoy the last little bit of driving this car stock, although it's kind of going to suck because I have tools in the car and it's raining out, but you know, it's still fun ringing this car out every now and then. So let's get to it. Our last stock highway pull. So I'm not exactly going to try to murder myself here, but I do want you guys to hear the sound of the car now so that we can hear it later on. See the difference with the header on? I'm sure it's going to brighten up the car quite a bit. grip is like not there. As you can see, grip blast by this guy. Yeah, as you can see, this car is not very thrilling, especially in these conditions. Well, I guess it is thrilling in these conditions because we got a little sketchy for a minute there. All right, off to the shop. We will do like an outside video maybe of this stock exhaust, but it's just like very lackluster. For the record, for my setup right now, all it is a Remark muffler delete. It's a dual tip, 4-inch blue tip titanium thing. I'm definitely going to be wanting to replace the whole exhaust system from the overpipe back after this install. It's just I'm like literally in no rush for it, considering that the gains that you get from that are extremely marginal compared to the gains that you get from just the headers alone. So let's get to it. For a couple grand.
Cars, guns. I have found my 3 favorite things.
And the guns and shit is, yeah. It's tough too when you're getting all these hobbies and they're all expensive. I did guns first, then photo, now, yeah, it sucks. So these two are the O2 sensors? Yep. All right, so we're gonna take these out, hopefully, as long as I don't suck at life, which I do. As the footage speeds up, the audience begins to realize that Ryan has once again failed at making a video on site and will have to do a voiceover. So as you saw there are 2 plugs that need to be unplugged from the top. Go ahead, do that. Then there are a series of clips that are holding the O2 sensor wires pretty much to the block, I believe. There is literally no way for me to show you this. There's no way to get a camera into this area. But what I will tell you, the easy way of doing it is just pulling the wire and feeling where the tension is. You'll find where the clips are and just keep pulling the wire until the only tension you feel is at the bottom. Obviously don't yank on this wire because it's a pretty important wire, I'd say overall, to the health of your vehicle. Now we are all set on the top of the car, so we're gonna go ahead and throw it on up. We've already taken the skid plates off. If you don't know, it's a series of 10 and 12 bolts, as well as 6 pop clips, 3 on each side, and a couple pop clips here and there. Don't quote me on it. I would recommend anytime you're doing exhaust bolts, with the exception of, I believe, the mid-pipe bolts, you really need to soak it overnight with some WD-40 or some form of penetrant spray. Regardless, I still did the fulcrum method as you see here. It just seemed to be easier to break it off and break it safely. That's the most important part, is you don't want to be snapping off bolts and snapping off studs just to get your exhaust off and then not have enough hardware to be able to finish the job once it's all said and done. Luckily, I think with this job, we don't have to do many pictures because it's not a tight space. I'm now taking off those overpipe bolts that we discussed as 2 14mm on both sides. The ones on the other end we have already sprayed. They are much harder to get off. Now that we have done the back side of the overpipe, it's time to do the front side of the overpipe, which is attached to the headers. It might appear that we did this very, very easily with just a normal ratchet and an extended socket. That's not necessarily the case. We got our bolts soaked as soon as the car arrived in the bay, so there was a soaking time of a few hours easily. I just wanted to bring that up just so you guys know, and just so it doesn't come as a surprise, just in case you're doing this install as well. So once we're all said and done with the overpipe, now we're going to take off the rest of the mid pipe. We actually were debating whether or not we needed to. You definitely need to, but we took off the header here just to see if we could get the overpipe out and not have to take out the mid pipe. But just for reference, you're gonna have to take it all out. Here on the headers, you can probably guess the sizing of the bolt, but it is 14mm. All we used was an extension and an air gun and pop those suckers off, then you can crank that off. Make sure you have a friend for this. The stock system is actually deceivingly heavy. If you're doing this alone, I would make sure you have a heavy hand on it before dropping that last bolt. Before we move forward, I just wanted to correct something on the previous video. It is a 14mm on one side on the spring side and a 12mm on the other side of the mid pipe. I know that in the previous video I misspoke on this. I just wanted to correct that, and also this video we kind of skip over it, so I just want to make sure you understand that the mid pipe does have to come off. Once you get those spring bolts off, the only thing holding together our mid pipe at this point is one small 12mm bolt that is attached to the transmission carrier. So now we are on the downhill portion of the install. It's all pretty easy from here. We are taking the O2 sensors off of the old headers, throwing them on the new ones. You need to do this ahead of time. You're not going to be able to put them in. Once the headers are bolted to the motor, there's just no room whatsoever. What makes this install special compared to a normal set headers is we have to jack up the engine in order to get the new overpipe in place. It is an extremely tight fit, and I believe we even jacked up the engine just to get the overpipe out. The stock overpipe is doable, I believe, to remove without undoing the engine mount bolt, but it was just easier overall to just go ahead and do this, and we knew we had to do this at some point in the install. So I sourced a great video from Johnny the Car Doctor where he goes over engine mounts that he installs, and it shows here the 14mm bolt that you need to disconnect in order for the engine to be free enough to move off to give us room to put the overpipe in. I know this process may seem scary and you might be a little bit paranoid about it, but trust me, if I can do this stuff, anybody can, and it's really not too bad at all. So as you can see here, we get a 2x4 so we can lift the engine, get a little bit of room. You now can fit the overpipe in. I'm orientating it ahead of time where it needs to be. As I'm doing that, Logan is slowly letting the engine back down. While he is letting the engine back down, I am moving the overpipe, just making sure it's not getting snagged on anything so I can tell him to stop if it does. This would really be good with two people. If you have one person, you could probably do it with two hands. Have one hand loosening the jack, the other hand moving the overpipe. The rest of the install should be very easy. Unfortunately for us, we had a hardware situation, but regardless of that, just make sure you're using nice new gaskets, bolt everything up, make sure it's snug, make sure the gaskets are in place and they're not kind of wonky or out of whack in any way. You want to do all this with care. That way you don't need to do this a second time. It would be very annoying to have to unbolt everything just because you didn't spend enough time on a gasket, so just make sure you do it right. Something pretty peculiar that I must note if you are doing the ACE install, make sure to install the headers first. After you've installed the headers, then match up the overpipe to the headers. Then put in the studs that go into the overpipe. It's very important that you don't put in the studs ahead of time, otherwise you're going to have to remove them. There simply is not enough space, and the way these headers are designed, it utilizes literally every centimeter, every millimeter of space that we have left down there. As I mentioned earlier, your install really should be downhill from here. We had a hardware situation in which we were missing two studs that go on the other side of the overpipe. So we ended up having to go to Ace Hardware and source our own, but it was good. Got a nice little lunch break in. It's a casual lunch trip. So after lunch and some good times, it actually did become downhill from there with the new hardware that we just acquired from Ace Hardware. So that's going to be it for the install portion of the video. As always, if you have any questions, put it in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as possible. We are going to go back into the video now as it's a regular video like we did in the last install. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you later on. Enjoy the rest. Alright guys, first drive with the Ace headers. We are picking up Logan. He's just right there down by the gate. I'm just trying to let my car warm up. Okay, there we go. Please don't stall. Okay. That sounds so different.
Yeah. That sounds good.
This makes a lot of noise compared to the stock setup.
Yeah.
Like, this is a loud bitch. Yeah, I feel the gas right now feels a little bit lazy. I think it needs to like learn. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because that's kind of like how stage 1 felt the same.
Dude, it sounds so good.
Way different.
I like it. It sounds like it's fucking ripping, you know?
Alright guys, that is gonna be it for the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. We're gonna get one more pull in the outro on my way home. The car has been definitely learning the OFT tune. It's been learning the throttle, as well as I think kind of trimming the fuel and stuff. I've noticed a few times I've turned it on and off after I left Logan's shop. It's running like extremely rich, so I think it's kind of still finding its balance in between. But if I remember correctly, that's how my OFT stage 1 was, and it built in over time. So it's gonna be a little bit better than the pulls you saw earlier, a little more sound. I'm just gonna concentrate on that, no talking, no nothing, just outro and fun. So that's gonna be it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out, bye-bye. If you have any questions, in the comments, as per usual. Yeah. Much faster.